Today we're constructing floor-to-ceiling built-in cabinets in the leftover space between the tub surround and the bathroom wall. It's a 3-shelf design, and I salvaged the old cabinet doors during the bathroom tear-out last autumn. After removing the old hardware, a lot of wood putty and a good sanding, I gave them a few coats with the paint sprayer and stored them away for the winter. Now we've got the design for the new cabinets with step-by-step instructions written out for building them. The shelf locations are marked out using the laser level too, so let's get right into it. The main sequence I'll be following is to first build removable access panels for the shower plumbing, build the horizontal shelf supports, and then add the cabinet front framing and then the doors and the hardware. I already have the 3 cabinet doors painted to their final color, and the designs for the new cabinets are all drawn out with step-by-step instructions for how to build them. The very first step is to cut some of these plumbing access panels. Then we're going to install the front framing on the very base of the cabinets. I'll show you that in just a minute. So let's head on out to the garage and check out that new table saw and make a couple of cuts while we're at it. I know I've got a bunch of old plywood scraps laying around back here. We'll use those for the access panel. It doesn't all need to be cut out of one piece, and it might even be better if it's not. That way it'd be easier to get those panels out if we ever need to. You get to be here for the very first cut on this new table saw. Gonna start with something really easy here. Just gonna rip this to 1 3/4. We only have a 1/4 inch between the vent and the base framing. Now time to cut the plywood for these access panels. The plumbing access panels are cut and rough fit into place. The pilot holes are already drilled in, that's how they'll be connected later on. Now we're going to bring them back down and paint them. I want to get the painting done right away on these because in between coats it'll give some time to put the backer supports on and attach those to the wall. The face framing for the cabinets then is going to be exactly even with this gray piece we just installed. Something like that. It's going to be out of 1x4s. That means that the supports for the face framing are going to have to go right behind that. They'll look something like this attached to the wall. I'm going to get the lines marked for this next. All right, the line is marked on the wall now, and we have the lines for all of the shelves too. Now, there isn't a stud going up and down right there, but back when these walls were exposed, I know I put some horizontal backer supporters there, but I lost track of those, so I had to put some nail holes in and find where they are, but now we've got them again. That's what the cabinet face boards are going to attach to. It's on this side too. The side of the cabinets with the hinges is going to be over here. There's more support on this side. I've also put in the shelf supports on two sides, not on this side yet. The boards for the access panel are painted, so I'm going to put those in, and the shelves are ready to go too. The entire interior of the cabinet is built now. We have the shelves installed and the plumbing access panel is in. Of course, we're going to have to be able to get that panel out if we want to, so it's only attached by screws, and these shelves will have to come out too if we want to get to that panel. So those two are only screwed down to the shelf supports. No nails, no glue. I'm not 100% sure what that top cabinet is going to be used for, considering that you need to put a ladder over the top of the toilet to get to it, but that's what was in the original design, so we're going to go with it. This is the front frame of the cabinet, and although there are some different heights and different widths, it's basically 3 different rectangles that are built on top of each other, 3 sides at a time. So for each of them, we're going to have 2 vertical pieces and 1 horizontal piece. I've taken the measurements from that drawing and then marked them on this right support. So wherever we have a horizontal piece, I've marked the bottom and the top of it and double checked all my measurements to make sure those cabinets fit. Then to get my mark on the other side, I just put this board across right at the marking. I make sure it's leveled out and then I mark it over here. And now the next step is to add some backer support for the 2 horizontals on the bottom. What I'll do is take this piece of wood with 1-inch angle brackets already attached, and I'll put it right in the middle of the spot where I've measured out for the horizontal. Now I'll screw that in, and that'll give some backing support when we put this piece of wood there. The horizontal backer supports are in. The critical parts about this design right here are that the openings have to fit the cabinets exactly. For these inset cabinets like we have here, it means the opening has to be a little bit bigger than this inside rectangle and a little bit smaller than the outside one. The other part is that when we install these, the horizontals need to be level and the verticals need to be plumb. We say something is level when it is perfectly even horizontally, and it's plumb when it's straight up and down. Both of these can be measured by using a standard level. Plumb can also be measured by suspending a weight from a string, and the string will hang perfectly straight up and down. Whether you're using a plumb bob or the bubble on your level, gravity is the reference frame that's being used for both, because gravity always points directly at the center of the earth. For these dowel holes, we're going to bring it out to the drill press. What's nice about it is you can set the depth and you can make sure you get the nice 90-degree angle every time. Before gluing these in, always dry fit them first to make sure they work. If the holes aren't exactly right, if they don't line up, you can always go back and make the holes a little bit bigger. Now I did have to adjust one of these and make it a little bit wider, but after I did, they fit nicely. So I'm going to take the dowels out, put glue into all the holes, and then put these back together and clamp it. And the first thing to do is load this bad boy up with some construction adhesive, because we're going to be putting this in with brad nails. I'm not going to screw into the frame at all. That would be a little too visible. Now that that's all greased up, we're ready to push this frame into place. I have the levels right next to me here and the nail gun. Hopefully this fits. All right, there it goes. The bottom of this is going to have to come out a little bit. Remember, we want to get it level and plumb before we move on here. I took a measurement of the width at the top, the middle, and at the bottom. It was the widest at the bottom, narrowest at the top, and in between was somewhere in the middle. So clearly these aren't exactly parallel. I put a level up to the side wall, and this one's nice and plumb, which is no real surprise since this wall was built new as part of this renovation project. When I put the level over on this side of the wall, I found that it slanted outward at the bottom. This drawing is an exaggerated view of what that looks like. This whole area is the opening, and these shaded areas are the boards that we're going to cut. You can see that this one needs to be wider at the bottom, and the slant is going to be on the right side of it to go alongside the wall. That is also going to be the cut end of the board, since we're going to cover it with quarter round later on. The inside of both of these boards need to be very plumb, and they need to be at exactly 12 1/4 width. Now I've already cut the board for the right side of that. Let me show you when I go ahead and put it into place. Now I don't think I'm going to use the dowels for this second half of the project here. I thought about it and there are some pros and cons to doing it, but they're definitely not needed for any real support reason. I'm afraid that if we try to attach them all and then install it as one big unit after that, we might run into problems that would be a little bit more difficult to fix. I just lathered on the construction adhesive, and so I'll nail that in and then just keep taking the level on the wall and getting this side lined up perfectly as we go on, nailing it towards the bottom. Now we want to measure up for the next vertical piece. What we do for that is we take our measurement across here at a bunch of different places. I already did that, and it's about perfectly 13 3/4 from this edge all the way to the other wall. So we need 12 1/4 for an opening. That leaves us with a piece at 1 1/2 for this side. Cabinet frames are entirely built out now. I've double checked the measurements, the doors fit. You'll notice that it's a really tall section of cabinet, but that there isn't much wood actually used on that. So it's really worth going with the premium boards for the facing woodwork. So next is just going to be the touch-up and painting. I know you all are busy. I won't waste your time with that. I'll see you back here when it's time to get those cabinet doors installed. Check if there's any touch-up painting that needs to be done on the walls or ceiling. Mine have scuff marks from the nail gun and some random paint splatters. This is the time to fix it up before putting on the quarter round. Otherwise it won't have that brand new look. For this, it's great to have some really cheap paint brushes around. I keep touch-up samples of all the paints I use in the house in labeled glass jars. Each door is going to have 2 hinges, a knob that goes on the other side, and then one of these for the latch, for the roller catch mechanism. This gets attached to the door, this to the frame, and it latches on like this. 1 3/4 with a pencil and my speed square. Same on the other side. Then line the hinge up and use the tip of a screw to make a deep impression, or as deep as you can, right in the center of these screw holes. All right, those are on. Flip it over and decide where you want the knob or handle placed. I'll take the screw and make the same indentation right at that spot. Makes it a little bit easier so that the drill bit doesn't wander when we drill this hole. There's probably a standard size for drilling the hole. I just test on a piece of scrap wood until I find the right size. A 5/32 bit worked really good here because you'll notice it doesn't push through, but it easily spins through. And that's kind of how I like it. That's a nice tight fit. Drill from the top and take it slow. The faster you go, the more likely you are to chip the wood as the bit punches through the bottom. And finally, the latch mechanism. You want this installed somewhere in the vicinity of where you installed the handle or the knob. Here, I'm just gonna line it right up with that screw and install it there. We're gonna install the cabinet door. The procedure for that is that we want to take the inside of the door, this inside rectangle, and center it in these openings. To center it side to side, I've put these light pencil marks directly at the middle of the openings on the top and on the bottom. I'll paint over those later. I also put a mark like that on the center of the top and bottom of the cabinet door, and I'm gonna line those up with these marks. To get it centered vertically, while I'm installing it, I'm gonna rest it on some type of a shim, maybe like this. I'll set the door onto this and then put a level on it. If I do err to one direction on this, it would be to have it tilt slightly up on the side opposite the hinges. The reason for that is that the hinges sometimes have a little bit of play in them, and so after you install it, it could drop just slightly. Also, gravity wants to pull it in that direction over time. I got that shim on the bottom. You might get a little blocked camera view here from time to time as I'm installing. All right, we don't have the latch in yet, but it opens and closes really nicely. It's really smooth. And door number 2. This is the big guy. All right, this bottom one needed a little more convincing than the other two, but it's in. There isn't much to installing these roller latch mechanisms. They install exactly flush with the cabinet face framing, but they need something behind it to screw into, like a little block of wood like you see here. This is on my dining room cabinet. Now with the backer board installed here, we're gonna screw it to that, but it just has to be installed at the correct height and depth. It has to line up perfectly with this part of the latch mechanism. So using a pencil, right as we're closing this, we can mark exactly where that is, and I've put the mark on the board. And so we just need to install it at the exact depth of this inset here, which is at 3/8 of an inch. All right, now we get the nice tight closure. And with all of the latches installed, that means our built-in cabinet project is complete. All right, well that leaves us with one more project on this entire bathroom renovation that we're going to do, and that is taking care of this exposed area right here. Looks like a simple project, but don't be fooled. This cut where the wood will meet the tub is gonna be one of the more interesting cuts that I've made on this entire house. And we're gonna build this out a little ways so that this curtain rod can come out by about 5 inches. So be sure not to miss the conclusion to this bathroom renovation project. See you back here next time.